Life, it just has this way of throwing these massive questions at us, doesn't it? Especially when things get really tough, when you're right in the middle of some storm, you just find yourself asking, why? What is going on here? How do you make sense of it all when everything feels like it's falling apart? Well, today we're going to have a deep dive into some really ancient wisdom that speaks right into those moments. We're journeying into the book of Job, specifically chapter 38, to unpack this incredibly powerful encounter. It's an encounter that totally reshaped how one man saw himself, the universe, and, well, God. Our goal here is to pull out the key insights from what God reveals to Job and figure out how these timeless truths can, maybe, encourage obedience and really strengthen our own faith today. Okay, so let's get into it. So picture this. Job. He's a guy who's lost pretty much everything. His wealth, his kids, his health. It's just unimaginable suffering. And he's been wrestling with it for chapters, right? Debating his friends who mean well but maybe don't help much. He's crying out to heaven, just desperate for answers, for understanding. And then, after all that silence, boom, God finally speaks. But not with a neat little explanation for the suffering. No. He answers from a whirlwind. Talk about dramatic.
Oh, it's completely unexpected, isn't it? A whirlwind. And instead of, like you said, giving Job the reasons why, God kind of flips the script. He launches into this series of intense questions, rhetorical questions, really, aimed at humbling Job, shifting his whole perspective. God's opening line is just powerful. Who is this that darkeneth counsel by words without knowledge? It's like, he's saying, Job, who do you think you are, questioning my wisdom when you understand so little? And then he tells him, gird up now thy loins like a man, for I will demand of thee an answer thou me. Basically, brace yourself, Job. I'm asking the questions now. You answer me.
Wow. Yeah, that's quite an entrance. Sets the tone immediately. And the questions that follow, they're just incredible in their scope. It's like a cosmic tour guided by God himself. He starts right at the beginning, the very foundation of the earth. Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? He asks Job if he knows its measurements, who set its cornerstone, and this amazing image when the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy. Creation as this joyful event.
Exactly. It's this picture of cosmic order and celebration that Job just wasn't privy to. And he doesn't stop at the earth. He moves to the sea, this raw, chaotic power. He asks who contained it, who set its boundaries, saying, this far and no further, here your proud waves will stop. It's about mastery over forces way beyond human control.
Right. And then he goes into light and darkness, the deep places of the earth, the springs of the sea, even the gates of death. It's like God saying, do you understand any of this, Job? The fundamental workings of the universe?
Mm-hmm. And then the weather. The storehouses of snow and hail. I mean, who thinks of snow stored up like treasure?
Yeah.
He asks about the path lightning takes, how rain falls on uninhabited land. And the stars, Pleiades, Orion, Mazzaroth, like the zodiac Arcturus. He is orchestrating the entire cosmos, even down to the details, like making sure lions find food or ravens get fed. It's this incredible range from the cosmic down to the creaturely.
So, okay, God lays out this overwhelming display of his power and wisdom, but what's the point he's making? Because like you said, he doesn't directly answer Job's question about why he's suffering.
Exactly, and that's what's so profound about this chapter. It doesn't give the easy answer. Instead, it reveals something fundamental. It reveals God's sheer vastness and, well, our own smallness, our limits. The implication is pretty clear. If you can't grasp how I manage rain or keep the stars in their courses, Job, how could you possibly expect to understand the complexities of my justice, my deeper purposes? God's ways are just so much bigger, more intricate, often hidden from our perspective.
So the point isn't necessarily to understand everything.
No, the point seems to be humility, realizing our place. It's not about crushing Job, it's about reorienting him. True wisdom, this chapter suggests, doesn't start with having all the answers. It starts with awe, with recognizing who God is.
And it also paints a picture of a God who is incredibly involved, right?
Yeah.
Not distant or uncaring.
Absolutely. He's managing the snow, the dew, the constellations, the feeding of animals. He's intimately attentive to every detail. The unspoken comfort there is, well, if God cares so meticulously for all of this creation, how much more must he care for humans, made in his image, even amid suffering we don't understand?
Okay, so this leads to a really important question for us living thousands of years later.
Yeah.
Can we actually have a right relationship with God if we don't get all the answers? If we don't understand everything he does or allows?
And Job 38 seems to answer with a resounding yes. That not knowing isn't a barrier to faith. Maybe it's even essential for faith. It invites trust. Trusting God's character, his goodness, his power, his wisdom, even when we can't see the full picture. It requires awe, reverence, and ultimately a kind of surrender to the mystery.
Yeah.
Faith rests on God, not on our ability to figure everything out.
Okay, so that's the core wisdom from this ancient encounter. Let's bring it home. How do we apply this call to humility, awe, trusting in mystery in our, very demanding 21st century lives? Well, one clear thing is maybe letting wonder push out that sense of entitlement we sometimes have. We live in a culture that often demands explanations, right? We feel owed answers. Job 38 invites us to just pause, to marvel. Instead of jumping to why me, maybe ask, wow, who even am I in this huge, amazing creation?
Right. And that connects directly to accepting our limits without ditching our faith. You're just not going to understand everything. Why certain things happen, the timing of things, God's specific decisions sometimes. This chapter reminds us that's okay. Faith isn't built on having perfect clarity. It's built on trusting God's character and recognizing his immense power and wisdom like Job did. Well, that naturally grows on trust. That kind of perspective makes obedience, even when things are confusing, feel more natural, more right. It strengthens faith in his sovereignty.
That's a good point about obedience. It also makes me think about listening. God spoke to Job from the storm, the whirlwind. Maybe we need to be ready to hear God, even in the chaotic parts of our lives. Sometimes insight doesn't come when everything's calm. It comes right in the middle of the turbulence. We shouldn't miss it just because the delivery is unexpected.
That is very true. And for anyone in a position of, well, perceived knowledge or leadership, a teacher, pastor, scientist, business leader, this is a huge call to humility. Your insights are valuable, sure, but they're always limited, always incomplete. Let wonder, not arrogance, drive your work. Remember, we're all just scratching the surface.
Yeah. And maybe a really practical takeaway is just look around. Creation isn't just nice background scenery. It can be like a classroom for the soul. Taking time to notice the details, the sky, the seasons, the complexity of a single leaf can be a powerful reminder of the Creator. It grounds us.
It absolutely can. It's a constant visible sermon about God's power and faithfulness.
So this deep dive into Job 38 really shifts things, doesn't it? From demanding answers to embrace and wonder, from feeling entitled to understanding, to resting in God's vast, unsearchable, but ultimately good character. So let me leave you with this question. When was the last time something in nature, maybe the stars or the ocean or just a bird singing, stopped you in your tracks and reminded you, gently, that you're not in control and that maybe that's okay?